Hi, my name is Samantha Way, and I am a senior Sociology and Anthropology major. The title of my capstone is The Impact of the COVID-19 Pandemic on Asian and Asian American Students at Wofford. I picked this topic because around the U.S., Asian American communities are suffering from hate crimes and racism associated with the pandemic, yet there's not a lot of awareness about this issue. The purpose of my research is to determine whether the Asian or Asian American students at Wofford have been impacted by the pandemic physically, mentally, or emotionally. The overarching question of my research is, in what ways have the Asian or Asian American students at Wofford been impacted by the pandemic? More focused questions specifically address whether these students at Wofford were previously aware of the rise in Asian hate crimes during the pandemic, how the pandemic has personally impacted students, and finally, how they perceive the campus and what should be done in the future in relation to the pandemic. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic to the end of 2020, over 2,800 Asian hate crimes have been reported to Stop AAPI Hate, a coalition created last year to address the discrimination against Asian Americans. Based on sociological theories, the rise in discrimination and rejection of Asian Americans can be explained by Goffman's definition of stigma, which reduces a person to a tainted, discounted one, along with the idea of othering, which is when the dominant group marginalizes a non-dominant group. Asian Americans are perceived as dangerous or foreign. Especially prevalent in the U.S. is the effect of framing, which can be seen through the stigmatized language used when describing COVID-19. One study found that by emphasizing the connection of Asian Americans with China and COVID-19, negative attitudes and xenophobia increased. On the other hand, when COVID-19 was framed with serious health risks, there was no increase in xenophobia or bias towards Asian Americans. With this increase of bias and xenophobia, Asian Americans around the U.S. have experienced negative consequences related to psychological distress. This can be explained by the minority stress theory, which states that the prejudice and discrimination that minorities face can often create a hostile and stressful social environment, which can lead to negative impacts on mental health. Higher levels of perceived racism and discrimination are also associated with threats to identity, loss of control, and increase in hopelessness and negative attitudes, especially among young adults. In my study, I am conducting semi-structured interviews to connect with the Asian and Asian American students at Wofford. While I am still in the process of completing all my interviews, I have learned so far that most Asian and Asian American students are aware of the rise in hate crimes in the Asian community, and some have witnessed, new friends, or even experienced incidents of racism related to the pandemic. While some instances happen online or in public, some students reported receiving stares or comments about wearing masks at grocery stores, and also having comments about the origin of the virus directed towards them on campus by fellow students. While most students do not fear for their physical safety, most are experiencing negative effects on their mental health, such as an increase in anxiety. The newly founded campus organization, WAAPI, which stands for Wofford Asian and Pacific Islander, has been an important resource for students to turn to talk about their feelings, but many would also like to see more support and resources at Wofford, such as bringing in speakers to raise awareness about this issue. In the next few weeks, I plan to complete all my interviews and begin summarizing the data. To hear the final results of my study, please join me on Friday, April 9th at 2 p.m. for our Capstone Roundtable Q&A. Special thanks to WAAPI for connecting me with students, Dr. Fowler, and Allison and Jordan for helping me film.